Well, let's talk about another issue that's coming up. The president made it pretty clear in his year-end press conference that if Congress doesn't act to close the prison at Guantanamo Bay, that he will. Take a look.
We will wait until Congress has definitively said no to a well-thought-out plan with numbers attached to it before we say anything definitive about my executive authority here.
But Congress has repeatedly prohibited him from transferring prisoners from Guantanamo to the United States. And in fact, just this November, the president signed a defense bill which barred him again. Question, why isn't that the end of the argument?
Maybe you and I just watched a different clip. What the president just said is he's going to work with Congress, present them a plan to close it, and then he'll make some final determinations. So I don't know if you and I watched something different, Chris, but let me be clear. The president has said from the beginning of this administration that we will close Gitmo because it's bad for our national security and because it's too costly. $4 million per year per detainee in that facility. That's a travesty. We ought to make sure that we're in a position to close that facility because it strengthens us when we close it. That's what the president will do. He feels an obligation to his successor to close that, and that's why we're going to do it.
You are going to do it?
Sure we are.
Whether Congress says yes or not?
The president just said that he's going to present a plan to Congress and work with Congress, and then we'll make some final determinations.
And if they say no, which they almost certainly will.
I'm not an if-then guy, Chris. I'm a guy that
No,
he wasn't at all. He again, you and I may have watched a different clip, but what I just saw the president say. I'm going to wait
and see what they do before I say anything about my executive authority.
Correct.
But you're saying they're going to close it, one way or the other.
I said we're going to close it. He just said he's going to present a plan to Congress to do that. And we're going to do it because it's too expensive, but much more importantly, it's not in our national security interest.
You say it's not in our national interest. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence says that 30% of the detainees that we've transferred so far are either confirmed or suspected of returning to the battlefield. Why help our enemy by giving these people who were clearly, they wouldn't be in Guantanamo if they didn't have some role in the war on terror for all these years, particularly the ones who are still here? Why help our enemy in the middle of the war on terror?
This is why we, from day one, went deep into the question of Gitmo to look at each of the individual detainees and also work very closely with our allies so that when we transfer them into their custody or into their care or into their watch, that we make sure that we have a rock-solid agreement for them to do that. Those 30%, Chris, go back to the start of this, which the overwhelming majority of them transferred under the previous administration with insufficient protections. That's why we changed the policy. That's why we changed how we handle them, and that's why that number has gotten better under this administration.
None of the ones you've released have gone back?
I didn't say that none of the ones that we have released. I've said that we do this with considerable care, pursuant to arrangements with our allies to ensure that they are kept out of that fight, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
You had a huge fight with the previous Defense Secretary, Chuck Hagel, who said that you were pushing him to release people he wasn't comfortable releasing.
Oh, I think that every Secretary of Defense only signs the transfer orders that he's comfortable signing, and so I won't go any further than that. I'll let the Secretaries of Defense defend their positions one way or the other on that. What I'm not willing to do is that, and what the President's not willing to do, is to make this problem, which has consumed enormous amounts of time and important relationships with our countries and allies around the world, for the next president. He feels an obligation to the next president. He will fix this so that they don't have to be confronted with the same set of challenges.